Thank you for listening to the Apprenticeship Diaries. This is How It Happened, part 1 of Amy's interview with Halo and his new apprentice Darren Monnity from Black Lotus Tattoo.
Welcome to the Apprenticeship Diaries, where raw meets refined.
Let's be real, we're still working on refining.
What it took, what it takes, and the stories that are made.
Join us as we learn from professionals about how their stories began.
Hey everyone, this is Apprenticeship Diaries. I just hit both my recording buttons. I'm here today with Darren of Black Lotus. What's your full name? I apologize, your last name.
Darren Monnity.
Monty?
Monnity.
Monnity.
Yes.
Okay, right on. And you are Halo's apprentice, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I was excited as soon as I found out that you were apprenticing, just mostly because Halo is such a figure in our industry already that it must have been a really cool thing to kind of bring you on. I was very curious about how that all got started. But before we get there, what kind of shaped your path in the beginning? Like, have you always drawn? Like, did you go to art school? Like, what did that look like for you?
I've been drawing since I was 4.
Oh, right on.
Yep. And I loved it. I got into it because I was born with a rare heart condition, so it kind of helped a lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to move this just a little closer to you just so that we get you more than me. Very, very cool. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like me in certain ways because I was born with an underdeveloped hip. So I had a rare birth issue that kind of set me apart from my peers that didn't allow me to perform on a physical level the way they did. So I was like, I'll just develop from the waist up. And it set me into art and just loved manipulating things. What were your favorite things to do at first? Like either subject matters or what were you drawn to?
Anime.
Yeah?
Anime and cartoons, of course.
But, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like, and how old are you? I'm sorry to pry.
I'm 26.
Okay, so it's like, I feel like that's kind of your generation. What was it about anime that you particularly liked?
Everything. Everything, really. Yeah.
For me, anime was always about the plot and storylines.
Yeah.
Do you really like to craft that within the things you do?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I take little subtle hints from the shows that I draw, and I put them into my artwork.
Okay.
Always.
Okay. What's your favorite theme? Because I feel like they do explore a lot of like really neat themes.
I don't know. Like, I like the I guess the hero theme a little bit more than all the others. Because, like, slice of life is fine, it's cool, but I have my own life for that,
Yeah.
But I like the story development and the growth.
Yes. No, that's very cool. This is that's kind of the premise of this podcast too, is like getting people from their beginning and then watching that hero journey unfold. So I like touching base with people at multiple different phases of that, but like exemplifying the beginning is really, really cool. So how did you, so you started at 4. How did that evolve? Did you do any formal art training?
Not really. Most of it was I was self-taught.
Okay.
And I was just trying to figure things out. I thought about going to art school, but it's expensive.
Very.
So, yeah, mainly self-taught in videos and just try to grasp as much knowledge as I could and try to figure it out from there.
Fantastic. So how did you find your way or your passion into tattooing, or how did that evolve between you two guys? Because we're here with Halo too, everyone. Like, he's here. He's here. So how did that go down?
Well, okay, so I first saw like what was actually truly possible in tattooing when Teresa Sharp started streaming on Twitch. And then I actually saw like big pieces and like illustrative work, and like I like stuff like that. So that kind of like opened up my eyes a lot. And then I saw Halo on Ink Master, and then I had a few friends who got tattooed here, and I just thought I'd come in and at least try, you know?
It sounds very signature to you too, Halo, as far as like, you know, the themes, like video gaming, Twitch.
Oh, yeah.
You know, anime, just that connection to art that's kind of self-taught and all of that. So how did you guys, like, how did that go down? Like, so you came in and you, did you ask, or how did that happen?
I can get into it if you want.
Yeah, no, we're here.
So Darren had, like, we were at the front of the shop. We're usually used to having people who are like, they're, you know, they'll come in and try to sell us something, or it'd be like Aflac Insurance or something. So this kid came in a suit, a full suit with like a blue tie and a little clipboard, and I was already ready to tell this mother, can I cuss?
Yeah,
I'll say. I was
of course.
Ready, I was ready to tell this motherfucker, no, we don't want it. You know what I mean? Whatever you're selling, goodbye. You know, it's just I was in my stance, and we say no to apprenticeships all the time. Mm-hmm. You know, it just me personally, I wasn't ready to take on an apprentice. I understand the scope of how much of a sacrifice it is. And I've been so busy with the shop that I wasn't even ready. So usually when an apprentice comes in, we just tell them no. Send over your work in an email. If the work blows me away, I'll give someone a call back.
Right.
And he had come in with, I think, like 3 or 4 sketchbooks. And so Emily was up front. And he was like, do you guys take apprenticeships? And Emily gave him the no.
Right.
But I was sitting there waiting for my client. She goes, but this is the owner, so if you want to talk to him. And so the first sketchbook is your very atypical apprentice coming in, drawing for fun without a lot of the base fundamentals. And so, you know, a couple Simpsons characters and things like that. And, you know, I'm going through it like, yeah, whatever. And pretty much ready to say no. You know, like, I'm good. This is the atypical stuff. And his next sketchbook, because I asked him which one he wanted me to look at first.
Right.
You know, because that's important. What's the stuff that you're the most proud of, so I know the base, and then I'll look at the rest of it.
Right.
And he was like, and he showed me his next sketchbook. And his next sketchbook was a whole page of noses. Oh my God. And then there was a whole page of ears and a whole page of eyes. And then he had wrote notes down next to them what needed to be better.
Oh, cool.
I was like, this one page here of noses is better than every drawing you've ever done. Because this shows that you're studying.
Yes.
And I think that that's something that the newer generation of artists, maybe because of social media, where you see the end product without the work, that art is actually about studying not only the world that you're around, but people you look up to, themes of things that you like. You have to study things that you're looking at to teach your brain. And he is the only person I've been tattooing for 18 years. He's the only person who had come in a suit, ever looking for a job. That's never happened.
Right.
And he's the only person who ever came in with studies, not drawings.
Right.
You know, and he was the only person who ever critiqued himself on his drawings, hit on by himself.
Right.
So I was like, look, man, I'm not looking for an apprentice. If you're looking for somebody to go give you a yes, you'll find someone. Someone will hire you and put you to work. But if you're looking for somebody to guide you, I'm going to give you some assignments. And they were assignments that he had already had. He had goals for his portfolio. And I was like, let's draw 3 of these goals. I'm going to give you 2 weeks.
Right.
You know what I mean? 2 weeks. If he came back a week and 5 days later, I wouldn't have liked it. Because punctuality is part of the job.
Yeah.
And if I have to teach you, I want you to be able to listen. So I said 2 weeks, coming back in 2 weeks.
Right.
And he came back within 30 minutes of 2 weeks. I was like, oh man, he's punctual, he's on time. And he came back and I'm going to talk like Darren isn't here, but none of his drawings, he lacked base fundamentals. And so when he was drawing, it was by the hip art, you know? Like anyone who doesn't do art, you know, on a fundamental basis would do. And I was like, okay, we're going to stop. You can't draw your own stuff yet. You're not at that level.
Right.
And so I'm going to give you assignments to copy certain things. I think that's what it was, right? Copy this, some of these pieces.
Yep.
And he came back again in 2 weeks. You know, he didn't go around looking for an apprenticeship somewhere else. He was committed. So he came back in 2 weeks. And then I gave him the hardest critique I could, where I was like, this is really bad. Like, this is not good, right? Because a lot of that, too, is that you have to...
He's still smiling in a suit, everybody.
You've got to teachable. So I'm giving away the secrets, I guess, but you have to be punctual. That's the first test. And then you have to be teachable. I don't really care if you do or don't know how to draw as much as I care about, are you able to take critiques?
Yes.
And are you able to show up on time?
Attitude.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And so he took the critiques with flying colors. I mean, like, it was very much, okay, I can see that. What do I do to get better?
Right.
I was like, oh, dude, yeah, like,
That's
like,
awesome.
No one else has done that before.
Yeah. So he wowed you right away with his attitude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Old phrase of my mom, and it wasn't hers. I think it was a Zig Ziglar quote, which was, attitude, not aptitude, determines your altitude. It's a good one. Yeah.
Who is Ziggy Ziglar?
Zig Ziglar, a lot of people don't like him because he has a lot of religious leanings to his motivational speaking, but he was an old school motivational speaker, much like Tony Robbins, who would give you rules for life kind of deal, and philosophies to live by.
Yeah.
But I kind of hang anything I don't like or anything that I listen to everybody. So for me, it's important to take what you need and leave the rest. I think that's critical for being in a people business in general.
Yes.
I feel like, especially with us, we have to look at people in the most kind and considerate ways possible, because we're going to bring them to their knees in pain wise. And what we do is pretty much torture.
It is kind of like that, yeah. It really is.
And it's a brand that you leave on someone that if you don't handle that with care and compassion, that you can leave a really resounding energy mark on them. So that's kind of where I've gone with it in my practice too, is just trying to produce a space where people feel unjudged, despite whatever my feelings might be, but like unjudged and accepted and valued for whatever. And if I feel like I can't give that to them, I deny them right up front and say, I don't think I'm a good fit for you in this piece. But that's like going into me. Maybe it'll give you something to meditate on as you grow. But that's really cool, man. I mean, you seem like that kind of person. Just, I'm very empathetic, so I try to read people's energy, but you seem like the kind of person that's like, dude, I'm here, I'm open, I'm willing to absorb. I'm just trying to get better and better and better.
Honestly.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Has there, before that time that you had received that kind of critique, had there been other people in your life that had critiqued you like that you kind of primed you for hearing those kind of things?
Not really, now that I think about it. I just really wanted to get better, and I knew that I had to do something because I'm tired of not doing art, you know? The day I took in my portfolio, actually, I finished it. I stayed up, so I work a 10-hour shift on my regular job.
Okay.
I got in from work, and I was like, I'm going to finish it because I have to, right? Mm-hmm. And I stayed up all night, and I was so, I was frustrated because it wasn't quick enough, because I was planning on doing it in 3 hours or something, and it ended up taking me to 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and then, but I finished it, right? So I hopped in the shower, packed everything up, and drove to the shop, and yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely dedication for sure. It's never like that, by the way. I am a fatal optimist with my time, and it's never like that.
Yeah.
Whenever you say 3 hours, especially if you're projecting a quote to a client, always tack on an extra 4.
Okay.
Always. Just always.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Yes.
In a little bit of time.
And it's cool that we're giving away secrets because I feel like, one, I'm not a very popular podcast yet, so the people who are listening because they're kind of in a niche group of searching, and so I feel like it's the same kind of thing. If you're searching for the information and the buzzword being apprenticeship, you'll probably stumble upon this podcast, which I feel is very integral. So I'm new, But that's something that I'm trying to grow in the podcast world as well. So I feel like us giving away secrets is kind of nice because it's the hipster club kind of like inside thing. And I think it's really cool how this evolved because, like I said before we started recording, you know, I kind of look for people to offer an apprenticeship to. In the times that I've experienced anyway, asking. I guess I shouldn't say that because I asked and I got an apprenticeship. But for me, you know, it's a case by case basis. I feel like, again, too, going back to the secrets, like this is, they're secrets, but they're not really secrets because if it's all case by case and it has to be the right bubble, the right moment. I mean, had you not been sitting there, he would have just gotten the no. Had, you know, like, had not all these things kind of culminated to this, had you not worn a suit, had you, you know, like, had not a lot of things happen. I mean,
had he just run in his finished drawings instead of his studies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Who knows what would have happened? And, you know, I've heard other people say a multitude of things, like they expect finish work because finish work implies that you can finish things, you know, whatever it is. So, and of course, what you would be looking for would be different from somebody else, you know, in their evolution. And Halo has been a person that at least I know in watching you, you've taught yourself art throughout this, so I feel like that would be something that you could specifically take someone on that lacked art skills and bring them up because of that.
You just blew my damn mind.
You know?
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense because that was my whole career. Yeah, you just messed me up. That was my whole career was learning, and I was constantly going places to study. And so when I had somebody that was studying, I connected. I was like, this person understands the value of failing and figuring out where he failed and then rebuilding himself. I mean, it's a process I've been doing for years. So yeah, I didn't know that about myself at all. So
cool.
We're just learning now. Thank you.
I love the ahas that happen.
That was wonderful.
No, but it's true, and that's something that I want people to kind of think about when they're seeking a mentor. Is that like if you're trying to find somebody who can bring you into a certain profession, you know, geek out about them. Like if there's somebody specific that you really are looking for or a specific journey, you know, if you're modeling after somebody. You know, try to seek out a mentor that has grown like that because I feel like they will be a lot kinder to you in your journey and accepting of it and give you the kind of tools you need to move forward. I think that for me, you know, and the one time that I brought up an apprentice that was successful, the thing that helped us go the distance was because her and I had gone to similar schools. So it kind of helped her feel comforted that I was going to give her insights that she had already had from her experience. But she was like 8 years behind me, so we had both gone to the same schools, but definitely different timelines, which we also talked about beforehand, which is like this evolution of technology that has come about.
Changes everything.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
It doesn't, because like you said, you can't quick route the art. You can't. It has to come from a place of constant drilling, constant dedication, staying up all night, working a 10-hour shift, and then just hammering. So that kind of passion cannot be expedited, I feel. So I saw a lot of cool pictures when you started. So after you gave those specific assignments, you also recommended books, and I saw some books. What were the key books that you thought were really important?
I don't remember all of them. We have I wrote down a curriculum.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Yeah. I'm glad that we got there.
Yeah. I wrote down a whole curriculum for the apprenticeship because I do think I'm 50-50 on the school versus apprenticeship deal, which I know a lot of tattooers are like, ugh. The thing, Modern Primitives, yeah.
Awesome.
I can't name the name of that. We also had him watch a documentary with a lot of the old guys, like the old Sailor Jerrys and stuff like that, because it is good to know where tattooing had come from.
Absolutely.
I think there's a healthy amount of respect on knowing how you got here in the first place, because you are standing on the top of giants. I mean, if you think, yes, you do art, but all of the people who built how you're going to be making a living is not on your shoulders.
Correct.
You know? So I really wanted him to get in touch with that and understand that, because I was starting him off with traditional. And even though I didn't do traditional until maybe my 7th year tattooing, I'll give you a little mini story, but Chris Lowe at Naked Art, I was making fun of traditional. I was like, it's so bad and it's weak and it's a rose and blah, blah, blah. He was like, cool, draw one then. If it's so dumb, draw one. And I couldn't.
Right.
And then it turned into days of me trying to prove him and me wrong that I could do it, and I couldn't do it.
It is fundamental.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's nice because you can't hide any of your, I can hide everything in shading and watercolor and all the stuff that I do. I can hide texture. If something doesn't line up, I can hide it craftfully. In traditional, you can hide nothing. Your mistakes are out there in the open for you.
Yep.
And it wasn't until then that I started going, oh wait, all my line work sucks. I looked back through my whole portfolio and I was like, I've been doing bad line work for years.
Yep. I think I still am.
I'm
still working on it.
Jesus.
I'm just fortunate that, like you said, I grew up in a painting kind of environment, and when you grew up like that, you can make up for a lot of the things that people don't really realize are so valuable fundamentals.
Oh yeah. And I knew that I didn't want him to make the same mistakes I was making, so our core value system was set up on a curriculum. And what I was saying about the school versus apprenticeship system is that I find goods and bads in both of them. When you tell someone to go get an apprenticeship, that could mean anything. Is it an apprenticeship so that you're going to be a money machine? Is it an apprenticeship to get you in a chair to make someone money? Is it a that's good enough, eventually you'll get better.
Right.
There's nothing that says this is the standard of apprenticeship that you're going to be receiving.
Right.
We've had guys who have guest spotted here who didn't know they had to bag their machines or bottle bags or anything. And they've been tattooing for years. So you work in a shop means nothing.
Yes.
And then, obviously with the school you have the same people would be running the school. So there really isn't anything. But the thing I do like about the school, and I wish more people who apprenticed people or mentored people would have, is a curriculum so that you have a direct guideline to success and failure. So at the 3-month mark, this is what I'm giving you, and this is what I expect of you.
Right.
And then at our 6-month mark, this is what I'm giving you, and this is what I expect of you. So that when someone says, hey, how is your apprenticeship going? Darren can look at it and go, well, I'm here, and this is where I need to get to.
It also holds you accountable too. I feel like as a mentor, I felt that was necessary for me and Andrea as well when I was teaching her, because I had never done it before, and I wanted to keep myself on the ball as a mentor, as somebody who is like, okay, I'm promising X to you, and I want you to hold me accountable for what I'm delivering as well, so that we can both know that this is an exchange. And you're tattooing full time. It's hard to teach people when you're tattooing. Yeah, absolutely. It went off the rails, but that's my story. A bit. Which was fine, because I think that everything happens for a reason. But I think that when you start out with very integral action, where there is paperwork, where there is things that are outlined and stuff, it makes you feel a lot better about what you're getting into, and that they're not going to suffer unnecessary abuse along the way. I think the big thing it also teaches you is accountability, because a lot of it is like, I have a 4-hour appointment, I have to get the drawing done, I have to get set up before a certain amount of time to amount of time for me to tattoo. There's a lot of accountability. You can't go in the back and fuck off on TikTok for hours. You can't spend 3 hours of drawing when you only have an hour, or you have to stay late. So I think it's good for the person who is being apprenticed to see, oh, I'm actually in charge of my career a little bit. I need to step up to the plate and do this. I just did something. You just did something with that? No, I think it's fine. Technology. You just edit all this out. Oh, it's a low battery. All right, well, enter. Can we push past that? I was afraid that this would fucking happen. That's okay. Do you need a charger for it? I needed batteries for it. I looked for batteries before I left. We're going still on Audacity. It should be fine. Okay. Yeah. Sweet. Yeah, it's still going. My computer's plugged in. Whatever. See? Yeah. It had 2 bars when I left. Sorry, everyone. I don't mind cutting out. This is raw to refined. This is my apprenticeship through podcasting. I'm learning.
That's good though.
Yeah,
right? That's good.
I mean it's the diaries, so I'm trying to get better and better and better at doing things like this.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, man.
I'm loving it.
It's whatever. I feel like no matter what, like I said at the top, like it, giving people these little nuggets, if they find their way to them, it can always help them in their journey.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, what are some of the things that in the shop here that you're responsible for? What does that look like? Your average day?
So I start off in the front, and I help the front out with all the clients who come in. I honestly just try to help out where I can.
Okay.
I'm in charge of inventory, making sure everything's accounted for as well. And yeah.
Fantastic. Now, you still work your other job as well?
Yeah. Yep.
Very, very cool. How many hours do you commit to either place as of right now?
So it's 10 or 11-hour days at my other job, and then 8-hour days here.
Oh, fantastic.
Yep.
So every day, all week?
So it's Monday through Thursday, 10 hours.
Okay.
And then Friday, Sunday, or it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday here.
Oh, fantastic.
Yep, 8 hours.
64-hour week at 26 years old.
Yeah, that's great. That's
insane.
awesome. That's awesome.
That's really good.
That's really, really good. Now, what, okay, so I'm trying to think. What made you want to like switch gears? Like, what was the bubble? I don't, you can unveil what you do in your 10-hour job if you'd like, but what was the, I have to do art for a living, moment?
Well, I always wanted to do art.
Okay.
And I just really got tired of working for other people, but even more so than that, like working for corporations and stuff, because so I used to work at the ice cream factory.
Okay.
A graveyard shift, 12 hours for 4 years, and I made them a ton of money, a lot of money, right? And I just got tired of that, right? And then at my current job,
was it Grace? Grace that says it smells like a breast in here.
Like,
I would imagine it gets old.
It had its perks, but
that's awesome.
And then at my current job, I'm tired of making these corporations a lot of money, and I would like to take care of myself and honestly just do what I wanted to do, as a kid, and just hold myself accountable without any excuses or without telling myself that this is the way it is, blah blah blah. You have to work a job to get paid. Nah, I'm good.
Yeah. No, I agree. That was the motivation I think a lot of people have for tattooing. I actually just met recently and interviewed somebody. Her name's Sabrina Mati. She's being brought up herself, self-teaching in tattooing, which was amazing. I saw her stuff on a Facebook group, and I was like, holy shit. We talked about line work. Her line work is incredible. Wow. And she's all self-taught, but she was an animator. Cartoon Network, Netflix, all of that, had worked on Rick and Morty.
Wow. Okay.
And she, same thing. I mean, this is like a of the art world, but her, even, she was like, I really don't enjoy working for the corporate entities. It's not great. I want to work for myself. I want to have more freedom in how I express myself as an artist. And like you, she said, we weren't ever given any credit. We're the actual people behind all of this, and we wouldn't go to any of the big corporate parties or anything like that. We wouldn't get invited to anything. It was really, really nasty. And she was like, so she left and started doing that, but it no matter what, just, you having that kind of aha moment about, you kind of quick routed it, which is kind of cool. You didn't have to go all the way into the upper echelons of the art world to find that out, which, I could imagine is a huge thing to have to walk away from. I dropped out of college. I went right into, I worked for Starbucks, so that was my whole thing, and then found my way to tattooing through a series of bad relationships. So, you do what you got to do, and you find your way there, no matter how it works out. And I that whole thing started in like 2005. So like you said, there was no curriculum, there was no discussion on how I was going to get paid, how taxes were going to be. Like there's so much abuse that was possible. So it's really cool that like you found your way here, especially in this shop that's so known in the industry. Halo is very known. There's a lot of accountability. You have a great mentor that's taken himself through his own art career and always pushes the limits, at least as far as I can tell.
Trying, man. Trying.
Are there things specifically that you want him to experience? Like, because, for example, I know you do a lot of different things that not even tattoo artists do. Like, you have invested time in airbrushing. You've invested time in exploring different mediums of all kind, oil painting, as well as like going to illustrator conventions, which I would love to do too. Yeah. But like, do you set those marks for him as well to do?
No, unfortunately not. I think maybe later on in his career, I'll probably try to guide him through some of those things. Yeah. Realistically, I think that if I'm being as curt and honest as I can be, I think he probably grew up enjoying drawing, and I think this portion is the part where it's the balance of enjoying what you're doing and studying is not as necessarily good. So most of this now is being critiqued.
Yeah.
And so something, I'll give you an example, something simple. I was like, hey, draw Charmander. And a client wants to come in and get a small Charmander, and he drew him on top of a circus thing with a circus tent wrapped around him, and it's like, look, man, like I love that. Everything about that I love, because you illustrated a new setting that I think would be cool. Realistically, though, you can't present the client things they didn't ask for all the time,
right?
Because what'll happen is you'll have to go back and redraw,
right? So
there is a portion of the tattooing where eventually you will get to do what you want to do, but in the beginning, before people trust you, you are, and even most of your career, you are in service to the client and their dream and aspiration. It's a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
So people will come in and say, this is what I want, and it's hard to deviate super far from that. So in the beginning, it's the less fun, I think. It's just we're trying to get straight lines down, we're trying to look at old traditional stuff. And then I'm going to slowly try to incorporate his style into it. But I do think that kind of along the way, you'll acclimate to something. Because when I started tattooing, Joe Cap, Tony Ciavaro, Jimmy Litwalk, that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I turned into a different artist.
Entirely.
Entirely along the way, like where I don't even look at that stuff anymore in the same type of admiration. I'm more into a completely different world. So I'm excited, I think, in a way, to see where introducing him to new schools of thought will evolve him, and then just kind of go from there, and then hopefully help nurture that.
Oh yeah.
Like, hey, if you like this, then maybe you would also like this, and this is how we can set you up for success within this area. But I'm excited just kind of watching him grow because, I did a video on our Instagram of him at week 1 and him at week 10, and it's like, it's leaps and bounds, man.
Oh yeah.
It's impressive. So I think he'll grow into something naturally, and I really want to see where that is. But I'm sure and it's tough when a client comes back and they're like, actually, I need to redraw this, or you draw a whole cool thing and you're really in love with it, and you get there and they're like, I changed my whole idea. Now I want this thing of my dog, and it's like, I want him to experience those things.
Yeah, the hits.
Yeah, because I think those things are the hardest, and they also teach you how to pick yourself up quickly. And I think when your goal is, I want to do only what I want to do, you don't set yourself up for the hits. Right. You know what I mean? And I think kind of, if this is just me, maybe this is an old school mentality, but there is a earn it, then break the rules.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And whether or not that's the right way or not, I do think that a healthy dose of a little bit of respect for the footsteps that everyone else had to travel to get where they are I don't think you get to bypass those things very easily, you know?
No. And and it's also too of like, you don't really know how to determine your own path until you've experienced those things, because you don't have that history of like what ifs could happen. It's like once you understand all the variables of what could happen within this, it makes you a lot more nuanced in your approach. So I feel like you're able to, and it's a full circle kind of thing, because that client relationship is, like I said, it's so integral to like what they're trying to do, and you are working with a human canvas. You are learning another person and connecting with people. And if you don't really get down with that, and if that's something that you discover along the way is not something you enjoy, then doing artwork, on a canvas might be your thing, or like going and doing this route might be your thing. But that trust in the beginning, it is more so about that human relationship first, I think. Especially, and formulating and keeping attitude in check is really, really important there.
It's hard sometimes.
Oh yeah. Well, there is the artwork, and there is, we're also dealing with people who don't know anything. It's like any profession. They come in, they ask for your expertise, and they're counting on you to lead them through it. So you being hit along the way and, managing your expectations is probably really good to get you to be the kind of professional that you need to be, so that you can do the same for the people who are walking in blind, hoping and praying that you're going to know exactly how to get them through all of their anxieties and all their questions and stuff. It just allows you to see a lot of those things coming along the way. So that's really, really good. And, also, just doing something simple well. Those are the hardest tattoos.
They're so difficult. They're so hard.
Yeah, they're really, really hard. So within tattooing, just out of curiosity, I mean, you're just learning everything from the ground up right now, but like as far as like the things that you aspire in tattooing to do, what are some of the styles and things like that really get you?
So I really like mixing like anime and neo-traditional.
Oh, cool.
So bright, vibrant colors, as well as like bold, heavy lines.
Cool.
And then I like illustrative work as well.
Awesome.
And like stories and stuff like that.
Oh, very, very cool. No, that'll be great. Neo-traditional, I feel like, and for me, is one of like it's like the most, because as far as art, as far as like tattooing, as far as all of it, it's like it hits all the notes. Like
well, you also really do need a lot of small bits from so many different things. I mean, you need to be able to run straight, clean lines. You need to be able to understand line weight. You need to be able to understand color balance, and then you need to be able to desaturate and saturate colors to show interest. You need to be able to compose properly. So it is very tough, and I do think that the route that we're going right now with, okay, we're going to learn lines. Okay, right now we're actually teaching composition.
Nice.
And that is, he's actually picking that up really, really well, but I think the easiest way was like a seesaw. You want to try to balance things out a little bit. So here's where you're imbalanced. We even critiqued people who I don't think tattoo, but they do flash on Etsy.
Okay.
And so we pulled up their flash on Etsy. Sorry,
that's a cool.
On Etsy.
Yeah.
But we were like, and I would say, what is wrong with this right here? And some things weren't wrong, but I just, maybe sometimes you say, what's wrong with this, and nothing's wrong. You just see where his eyes go.
Yeah.
And at first, remember the other one I showed you, I was like, actually, I was going to say nothing's wrong, and you found something wrong with it that I told you 2 days ago. Yeah, you're right. This is wrong.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. I like that.
Composition right now, and I was showing him how to steal composition. So, this isn't a Nunn head. It's just a shape.
Yes.
This isn't a baby bottle. It's just a shape. That Nunn head can be a Ninja Turtle. That baby bottle can be a piece of pizza. And now you have proper balanced composition, and you stole it from something else, Yeah,
well, because it's all kind of based on like the theory of thirds and all of those kind of things. So they're very geometric, visual things that the human eye goes after right away. It's kind of like how we prefer symmetrical faces and things like that. It's very signature to what our eye reads and agrees to like the most. So those kind of areas of composition are very, it's less stealing and more like, this is just what people like.
This is how it is.
It's the general norm of what people's eyes register as awesome. So, yeah.
it's a neat thing to relearn, because there's a lot of answers that I may have learned 10, 12 years ago that as I'm trying to teach him now, I'm like, I don't know how to say it. Like the other day, he was like, so why did you pick purple for that background? And I was like, I have to say it now, like out loud and realistic. And then I had to think of where I was getting that from. And then the conversation ended up being longer than I wanted it to be. But it's like, oh yeah, I learned that from this, which I learned from this, which I learned from this. Mm-hmm. So there's so much of that in the teaching process. Mm-hmm. I've become an accumulation of so many different styles, or at least learning from it. I still don't have a damn style.
No, me neither.
Yeah, I don't know what is going on. Half the time it's just I find inspiration in something, and then I'm basically a bunch of inspiration. That's it. I'm a bunch of small bits of inspiration from everything that I eventually pour out onto something.
No, I think that's it's a good person to learn from, because I think that he'll help you craft your own vibe. In that he's not going to lock you into something that he feels is like necessary for you to get to. Rather, it's just going to be, we're going to get you the most integral education possible, so that you're not hurting people, so that you're professional. It sounds like you already really are in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he's fantastic with people.
Yeah,
and he's fantastic with people. He shows up on time. He has integrity. It's half the battle is done within the personality. I feel like for what you consider a not shitty tattooer, you know what I mean? The reason why he wants to do it is there. He's not trying to, get pussy and travel. He's trying to grow as an artist and be better and do for himself. Like, those are the integrity-driven purposes, which I love.
Right. So, with this current level of education, are you picking up tattoo machines? Is it all just drawing right now?
It's all drawing. So I think roughly within I want to get him started tattooing. I told him roughly around a year, but it just depends on him.
Yeah.
9 months I have optional. We can tattoo at 9 months,
Gotcha.
At least under guidance. So like kind of what we're doing now, because he is getting exceptional. He filled up a whole sketchbook in the first 2 months.
That's awesome.
Which is, it's probably like 100 drawings within the first 2 months. So he's doing really well, and he's picking up really well. So what we're doing now is I'm teaching him how to draw something, and then how to color it in, and how to properly compose it. And we even did color studies. So before you decide that you're going to put this on paper, do a 10-minute color study. Make sure your colors are where you want it. That's where we're at now. And then I said, we're going to get people to get this tattooed on them.
Right.
So now I have to show him how to get people interested in what you drew.
Yeah.
Because, you remember from forever, I really want to tattoo this. Who wants to get it?
Yeah.
A lot of times it's at a discounted rate. A lot of times it's on your day off. And so, come in and then I can show him with me tattooing. Mm-hmm. This is how I take this. And now you know how to draw it. And now you know how to color it in with markers and colored pencils. This is how you translate marker and colored pencil into tattooing.
Yeah.
This is how you translate a drawing that you did into a client.
Yes.
And so these are all like building blocks for how the whole tattoo career will be set up. Not just cool, you can draw now. Now go ahead and start doing some flash. There's so much to it, and so I'm trying to piece together my whole career into these small little curriculum style tests.
Right.
To just build that into him so that he can understand. Okay, point A to point B equals C. Got it. And then from there, he's going to be successful on his own. You know what I mean? He won't need, anyone to. He'll be able to do that dream of, I need to turn this into that. And realistically, I don't want to ever hold him back from, you have to you have to do all this because this is what the walk-in is. I think there is a big part of that, because when you're learning the machine, you need things to be as simple as possible. A name is a wonderful study place to learn line work and curves and circles and bends, and composition and flow. I mean, it's a wonderful thing, but it would make me happy to go to see him one day go, I drew this, I really want to tattoo it, and have an entire career off of that.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So that would be goals for me, because either way, whether he does walk-ins and he's like, I love it. We actually just looked at an artist today, Kool-Aid, who tattooed me years ago, and now he's at Hart & Huntington in Florida doing bangers.
Nice.
And he was doing huge bodies of work composition. It's maybe that's what he liked.
Yeah.
You know, I made much more money doing walk-ins, and everyone has different scenarios within their life or different things that make them feel fulfilled. So realistically, whatever he's doing that makes him feel fulfilled is fine with me.
Yeah.
But ideally, I think that he is more than walk-ins.
Yeah.
You know, he is at his very core, he is an artist that's trying to think outside of the box, and I'd love to see that come to life.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's good to at least do that first, and then decide afterwards. Like, yeah, I think I want a different kind of workflow. What are you finding? I guess the most challenging or surprising up front, or is there anything?
Well, so it's not easy. None of it is, right?
Glad you said that.
None of it is easy. So I don't really know where to start.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I was going to say, start with the drawings that we had you doing, and start there, because we did multiple methods to try to figure out where your mind was. So maybe we'd even just start with that.
Okay, so in the beginning I had to... So learning how to draw the correct way was tough, right? Because I was so stuck in my ways and used to doing it my way. And then to be introduced to a completely different way of doing it altogether, like it barely shared any similarities whatsoever. That was extremely tough. But it definitely helped me break things down better and faster, like by a lot.
Yeah.
A whole lot.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. So, like, were you there with like a ruler and slapping his knuckles every time? Like, how did that look?
No. So what we started with was a basic skull, and I pulled some traditional flash, and it was just a skull and a knife going through like the head and coming out the bottom. And I was just like, just draw this. I just want to see how you drew it. And he might have spent like 3 hours drawing this 2-inch by 1-inch thing. And I was like, okay, obviously, like, if you're spending that much time on something very simple, there's a lack of confidence or something like that in there, or there's a lot of pressure. So I'm like, okay, awesome, draw it again. And what is wrong with it? And then find out better. And then I was like, you can use measurement tools to figure out if your eyes are going to be even by gridding it a little bit. Where does the top of the knife stop, and then where is that in correlation to his head? That's right where this eye starts. So draw a line down so you can remeasure it. Right. And so we were doing a lot of that, like grid lining and then object association. And then it was still rough. So I said, okay, so instead of starting with circular eyes, start with squares. Make sure your squares are the right size, and then identify the angles within the squares so you can double check them. If this angle that's left over in the square is the same angle as this little triangle you made left over in the square, then you know both your angles are correct.
Right.
And then it was, okay, now instead of starting with a skull, start with a square. This dagger is now a rectangle. Right. These eyes are now cubes, and start with those. And then we did time drawings. Yeah. And he really, really excelled at time drawings, which was crazy because that's not where people excel. Yeah. I said, awesome, you have 20 minutes to draw this now. So time yourself. 20 minutes, you have a skull. It needs to be all the way done. Yeah. And he set a little stopwatch and timed himself. And he was like, oh my God, I'm starting to get it now. Yeah. Because he wasn't over, and I'm talking for you at this point. He was overthinking everything. Yeah. And so I think it's like basic shapes, man. Yeah. Skull, square. Bottom jaw, square. Teeth, square with line through it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And just do that, and then double check where your placements are. then you can worry about getting these things down. And he excelled at time drawings, and then
it's really just getting those questions in your mind, right? Like like having the right questions that lead you to the answers. Like once you find them out, like it's like, oh, why wasn't I always doing this? Like it's it feels so simple when somebody like really just points it out and isolates it for you. I find that with everything with me. I'm just like, oh, why wasn't I doing that forever?
Why wasn't I thinking at all?
Right. Or why was I thinking about everything except for this one thing that would have been the answer? No, that's everybody that first starts anything, is that we tend to overcomplicate everything. And I think it's just a fear of failure that really just kind of drives that monster that keeps us from moving forward. But I think that when you just kind of are able to break things down into small little increments and you don't challenge yourself with the entirety of the task in the moment, then you lean into it. Then you can breathe through the action and you can just pace yourself. And then the time is forgotten, and before you know it, you've come to what you needed to at a very expedited, level, because you weren't. It's the same in anything, by the way. It's the same in like jujitsu, for example. I never got to any kind of prowess in it, but I noticed when I was rolling, I'd gas myself out before anything, and I'd always lose because in my head I'm like trying to predict what they're going to do next instead of just allowing myself to feel what's happening and reacting, and then next step, you end up defeating yourself before you even got started, and it's this panic mode you go into that forces paralysis, and then you've already just lost. So it's the same, and it's really interesting. I don't think that I've mastered it in any way, but I've found that that wonderful joy of just no mind. Like, no mind, just act, react. I find that mediums such as water mediums are really great for that, because they teach you a lack of preciousness and embracing of those happy accidents too. Or just a super amount of control that you have to have in order to create a very precise look that could go off the rails very quickly.
You're talking about like watercolor?
Yeah, watercolor or ink mediums that like even less mobile than watercolor. One of the people that I got to watch early on talk about traditional, he hand painted all of his flash sheets and paintings, and they were all a traditional Americana kind of thing, was Torre de Stromp. And he would use, pinstriping lines and everything to do with ink, borders that were just, like to 10 inches to like 17 inches straight lines that just, it would blow your mind, and like a drop of ink, and it's perfectly pristine white paper. And I'm like, holy fucking shit, dude, I'm so anxious just watching you do this. It's incredible. Like that's the kind of thing when you don't know, and you get somebody who comes in and they're like, I want this circle tattoo. Oh, it should take you like no time, right? And you're like, F you, man. Like,
dude, that's so funny you said that. So, there's a guy, are you familiar with Dan DeSantos?
Yes.
So him and I have been buddies for a while, and he came to the shop and did like a little painting thing with us. And he was like, man, I really want you to do my first tattoo, Halo. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, thinking it's going to be illustrative. He said, I really like Star Trek, and they always have these 3 little circles here, and it's on his collarbone. And I'm like, you're my idol. I can't do that. I can't do that at all. And he goes, yeah, it should be nothing. He goes, I feel so bad even asking you to do this because it's so beneath you. And I was like, I'm going to die. Yeah, I cannot do that. So it's so funny to think like what some people think is simple. They don't even know what they're looking at. It's like, I've been tattooing years and years, and 3 circles, I am terrified.
Yes.
Terrified.
I had the same thing. It wasn't another tattoo artist. That would have upped the pressure for sure. But a long-term client of mine, he asked me for this chest piece. He'd been waiting for months and months and months. And I just automatically said, sure, man, because like thinking like, oh, you've come to me before, you kind of know my style, and like, how I work, and I love him. He's a great guy. And so I said yes right away. And then Then he sent me the email of what he wanted, and it was just circles on circles on circles. And I was like, dude, I feel really bad.
Yeah.
But that's a hard no.
It's
hard. And he's like, I don't think I want any color or anything really. I just want the crisp line work. And I'm like, why would you want me?
Yeah. And that's where the connection to the person versus the understanding of the art come into play.
Yeah.
Because people like you and then they have that idea, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're the person for it just because you get along or, you know?
Yeah. No, totally. So I love that you did the timing thing. That's something that in traditional art, that's a very, it's a good practice, and it is really great for compositions because you do have to get everything in all at once. And it also teaches you to like plot your course very well too before you commit overly. So that's really, really good. I'm glad that you were highly successful with that.
Me too.
Yeah.
There's so much benefit to being timed.
That's awesome. So since we have this curriculum, what's next after composition? Where do you go from there?
So after composition, you can answer that. You know your whole curriculum.
Yes, so right now we're focusing on composition. Eventually I'm going to shadow the other artists.
Oh, good.
Set them up, break them down, learn the
Nice.
whole process and everything, but as well as learn their particular process as well. Because everyone is so good. And they're so good at so many different things that it's definitely beneficial
Yeah.
to just sit there.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I'm happy that you have such a wide array of people to learn from here, because that's definitely great. I mean, in any kind of learning environment, it's good to source many people. And if you don't have that in the shop that you're working with, certainly the internet's varied, but it's harder to just be able to have those quick answers right there. That's awesome. I love that. Do you know... Has there been a discussion? Will you start him on traditional tattoo machines, or will that be expedited?
So that's the only part of the tattooing old school mentality that I don't share. Is the I'll let him use both and then kind of see where it is. I'm personally a rotary fan. I started out on traditional machines, and I do understand their merits and their benefits, but I would never go back ever in my life. Like, even if it blew my mind, because I don't know if it's, I acclimated towards the rotary machines. And once I picked one up, I go, oh my God, I understand everything now. It's so, everything is so simple. So we have tattoo artists here that use both.
Oh, that's great.
And that's one of the reasons I want him to work with other people. We just had a shop meeting about it, and I said, he is definitely my apprentice, but he is an apprentice of the shop. And I told him the other day, I said, I don't have all the answers.
Right.
I learn from these guys all the time. I even learn from tattooers that I don't even like their tattoos.
Yeah.
I've been to shops where I would like, God, that guy can't tattoo at all. And he'll do something outside of the tattooing, and I go, oh my God, that's brilliant, right?
Yeah.
So with having so much talent here, and some of the guys I look up to constantly, I think it's so important for him to be able to sit with each artist so that they can show him something. Like, hey, Halo said do it this way, why are you doing it that way? And they do it way better and more efficient. And then he goes, well, fuck Halo, like I understand this now. Or, I could have shown him something that had 3 steps, and someone here could have done it in 1.
Right.
And he when I explain it, he might not understand it, and then when someone else explains it, he goes, it's all, I understand now.
Yeah.
So I know from my experience of doing it with other people and guest spotting in places, that's highly important. So he'll get the opportunity to go around with each person.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's any right answer when it comes to that, because it's just, what's going to get you in the saddle practicing fastest is kind of me. Is that it's cumbersome regardless of what machine you start with. Now, certainly, Coils have they're made to have their nuances that, I mean, specifically made to do that. You know, liners, shaders, what kind of lines. I've met people that like, they have a liner that's only meant for 3 liners. Like they're like you know, that's it. That's like the only thing the thing will run, and it's like butter. And but that's the only thing it can drive beautifully, which that's an amazing line to make. But you know, to have a machine that specific. You know, I always went with it of like, get you in the saddle, let you have the most success imaginable, so that you are not self-defeated. And then if after you're making money or you're learning certain things, or you have the question that needs answered, then we can explore what other machines or whatever things you might want to try. Andrea ran into that too. I started out with a pen, rotary, and then she wanted a lot of these lines in this, you know, like the stipple shading and things like that. And I said, well, you need something that has a more buffered hit, you know, like that will kind of drag within the skin a little bit more. And I was like, that requires something that can go at a lower voltage. And I was like, unfortunately, a lot of these things can't. They just won't turn on unless they're a certain speed. And they're meant for really adequate lines and pack work. And I was like, sorry, we've got you a machine that's going to allow you to do a majority of tattoos, but with that particular kind of shading and line work and stipple work, you might need something that's a different kind of rotary that allows for, you know, a little bit more of a, you know, a lag in how it hits the skin, which you'll learn all of these things. It's really crazy.
It gets insanely complicated.
That wraps up Amy's interview with Halo and Darren. Join us next week for the conclusion. Thanks for listening. You can find the Apprenticeship Diaries on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our IG is _apprenticeship_diaries. If you would like to offer constructive criticism or an interview, drop us an email at theapprenticeshipdiaries@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from our listeners.